Just given the cup form, is this game almost a welcome distraction from what's happening in the league? And do you perhaps see it as a game that could kickstart your season again?
Well, this is what we want to use it for, and as well because it's a competition that we want to try to win. We had two difficult opponents before that with Leicester and Liverpool. We managed to beat them both, and now we are playing at home, and we are one step closer to Wembley. So it's a really nice game for us to play, because this is the type of game that we are looking for through the season.
It's approaching a year in charge for you at the club. I'm sure you couldn't have imagined the position you'd be in the league at this stage. But is the job proving more difficult than perhaps you envisaged when you took it?
Well, I could not think about a lot of challenges that we've been through this year for many different reasons, some internally at the club, some externally with the pandemic, and then as well with some results that we have picked up in the last few months in the Premier League. But probably as well, I could not imagine all the nice moments that we had when I stepped in and I knew the challenges that we were facing, that we're going through for a couple of years or more already. So some really positive highlights, and obviously now everything is looking a little bit more negative because of our form in the Premier League, obviously.
I'm sure you're aware, Mikel, of all the talk from fans, from media, from pundits as well. You seem to be the subject, and your future as well. From a personal perspective, are you feeling pressure from within the club, and what are they saying to you?
No, within the club, everything I'm feeling is just support, encouragement, and total confidence that we're gonna get through this together. Externally, I never read what is happening. I know more or less what is happening, but I never read it in beautiful moments. Don't read it in difficult moments. I don't read it. I just try to focus on the job and what I have to do. But obviously, a club of this stature deserves the best, and when it's not happening, everybody is going to question what is happening. And obviously, I'm the most responsible one in terms of results, so I have to accept that, obviously.
It seems crazy to say, but some Arsenal fans are genuinely worried about relegation. Are you worried?
Well, when you are in this position and we have the points that we have at the moment, you have to look and be careful, because we haven't been a lot of time in this position. I think last year when I came in, we were in a very similar position, and the same talk was around the place. It's normal, because we need to start picking up points and then forget about it and start to look on the table much further. But it's, I think it's a normal thing to do when you just look at the table and you get the conclusions pretty quickly.
Just finally from me, Mikel, can you give us an insight into what the atmosphere is like at the club, and particularly in the dressing room? Because I know you say you don't pay any attention to what's being written and what's being said, but there seems to be a growing amount being written and being said about the atmosphere between the players, between you and the players. What can you tell us?
I don't say that I don't pay attention. I say that I don't read. I do pay attention, and I have to be aware, and I am aware about what is happening. That's part of my job. But what I'm saying is I don't read. If I start to read all the comments, whether they are positive or negative, it would drive me mad. And my suggestion to every player is exactly the same all the time. It happens with this social media as well, because you cannot control who is writing, what the intentions are. So it's, I think, very dangerous thing to do. When you talk about the dressing room, the atmosphere at the club is good as it could be when we are all hurting, because results in the Premier League are hurting, and everybody is worried, and everybody is suffering at the moment, because we want much more, and we are working to get much more. In the dressing room, when you are losing football matches, it's difficult, because they suffer as well, because they care, because they want more, because the confidence level starts to go through, but the unity is there. Is that 100% unity around the club? It's impossible in any club, even when you win, because players that are not participating is always more difficult. But when you look at the perspective, how we are losing football matches and how we are where we are, it's pretty incredible. Because last year against Everton, we won the game with 25% chance of winning supportive of the start. You win 3-2. Last weekend is 67% chance of winning any Premier League in history and 9% of losing, and you lose 3% against Burnley, and you lose 7% against the Spurs, and you lose. There is something else apart of that. It's not just the performance, it is something else that has to go our way, and at the moment it doesn't. Saying that, he doesn't care because you lose, and the only thing that cares is that you lose the football match, and this is why we're here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Darmish.
Thank
James from Talksport.
Morning, Mikel.
Hello.
Mikel, have you got any good news for us from the injury point of view in terms of Pierre-Emerrick Aubameyang? How long do you think he'll be out for? And then any other players that may come back into the fold tomorrow?
Well, Oba, it's feeling much better. He was more positive yesterday than the previous 2 days. He will have another scan the next few days, and we will see how quickly we can get him back on the team. But he knows how important it is for us, and he feels that responsibility, and he's trying his best to be fit as quick as possible. For the rest, I don't think we're going to have any news till today before training.
You mentioned a few stats before then. At the weekend, it was 60% possession you had against Everton, but just 2 shots on target, and that includes Pepe's penalty. So what's going wrong? Is it a confidence point of view? Are the players lacking a bit of courage, or is there a lack of vision in attacking areas?
I'm zero interested in ball possession. I'm interested in what we do with that ball and how efficient we are. Our conversion rates and our finishing quality is what is letting us down at the moment, because with the rest, it's where it should be to win many football matches. And it wasn't there before, and we were winning because our finishing quality was through the roof, and we were winning these football matches. And at the end of the day, in football, both boxes make the difference. If you don't make it right in your own one, and when you get into the opponents, you don't put that ball in the nets, is what at the end makes results go one way or the other.
It's been a really difficult start to the season. Are you concerned at all about the psychological effect this is having on some of the young players, the likes of Ainsley Maitland-Niles, the likes of Bukayo Saka, players that are already experiencing a huge amount of pressure that comes with being an Arsenal player, and that's just almost insurmountable now results have been so poor of late?
It's part of what they have to do and what they have to go through to become a really important place for this football club. You have to see how people react around them in difficult moments. They have to experience themselves to get through these difficult moments and how they're going to handle that pressure. If they are able to do that, they have to handle good moments and how they handle that to continue performing at the level that is required here. So it's another experience for them, and I must say that they've been much more mature, responsible, and efficient than I was expecting. So, in my opinion, they are doing really well.
And just finally from me, Mikel, obviously you spent a number of years at Man City working under Pep Guardiola. How does the pressure compare to being one of the coaches, the number 2, to being the number 1 here at Arsenal?
Well, it's different because at the end, the decision making is completely down to you. And you are in the spotlight when things are going well and when things are not going well. And that's the biggest difference. There are a lot of similarities in certain areas, but it's nothing to do like being obviously the main man and the decision maker, and that changes it all.
Brilliant. Thanks for your time.
Thanks to you.
James. Mark at the Press Association.
Morning, Mikel.
Hi, Mark.
We all saw what a lift the FA Cup win gave the club last season, despite the Premier League campaign and finishing 8th. Given what's happening in the league at the moment, would going all the way in the Carabao Cup be enough for you and the club this season?
It's not being enough isolating just one competition. We will have to play every competition to try to win it. Last year we managed to win 2 of those, and we have a really nice opportunity because we've done really well in the competition this year, and tomorrow's game is another step forward to be closer to win another trophy, and this is what we are going to try to do. But that doesn't mean that then it's going to reflect on the rest or it's going to look better, because at the moment, whatever happened in any other competition, what we do in the Premier League is nowhere near where we should be.
The club has backed you in recent weeks. Edu and Vinay both come out and said you're absolutely fine in your position. But can you imagine there being any conditions where you would consider walking away from this job yourself, or is that something that to you isn't even an option?
I don't like to think about those steps because I'm going to be thinking in a negative way, and I cannot do that. At the moment, I have to try to be as positive as I can, believe in what we're doing, try to modify things to make it work it better, and stay strong. We're going through a lot of difficulties. Last thing we want to be thinking is a lot of more problems coming up in the next few months. I'm not in that state of mind. I know the responsibility that I have and why I am here, and I think everybody knows as well from a few months ago that this wasn't going to get resolved really quickly. So I think that's the consciousness of everybody at the club.
Gabriel Martinelli been out of injured for a long time, but came back off the bench on Saturday. There's been a huge clamour from fans for him to almost be the saviour of your season. But they have to be more realistic, don't they? Because he's a young player who needs a lot more time to regain full fitness and everything.
And we cannot put Gabi that pressure on his shoulders. I don't think it's fair for him. He brings that enthusiasm that the fans can see because he's got something special. He's got a special energy every time he steps on that field. But remember that Gabi, what he's done in the Premier League and the time that he's been for us is very limited, and let him develop like we are doing with many other young kids that we have here.
Is it the current situation with results and the goal scoring issues that you've had? I know you've talked about at length, but when you've got a player like Martinelli coming back, it does make it harder for him. There is a bit more pressure on him because of that. It's hard. It would have been a lot easier for you to drop him into a winning team, wouldn't it? But now there is that pressure building up to see if he can change things.
Yes, but again, Mark, the same with many other young players that are taking probably more responsibility that they should do in this moment. But it's the squad that we have at the moment and what we have to manage, and they have to try to do their best. But I don't think it's fair to put now all the pressure on them as well.
Thanks,
Mark.
Mikel.
Thank you.
Nick, Callow from Haters.
Yeah, morning, Mikel. You were saying that Aubameyang has got to have a scan, so presumably he's definitely out of this match. And would you have played your Europa League Cup side in this game anyway?
Well, let's see how the boys are today. Oba is not fit for tomorrow, that's for sure. He won't be playing tomorrow. And we will see who is available because we have a few doubts as well in other positions. But we want to get obviously a very competitive team because we know the level of City and we want to win the game tomorrow.
So far as you're aware, are players such as Reece Nelson and Flo Balogun available to be in the squad or on the bench? Or
It's a possibility.
Possibility, okay. You mentioned earlier about being a player in these situations and players getting upset all the time. You can never have 100% unity. What were you like as a player when things weren't going in the club's favour?
I like to look around me, whether it's a staff, coach, players, and I want to see fighters. Normally when that happens, you have two types of people, fighters and victims. You just need fighters. You don't want any victims. Victims bring excuses, bring negativity, and they start to blame anything that is happening around them or that is not going for them. What you need is just people who fight, people who contribute, and people are ready to give everything to the cause in these moments.
You've discussed before, just a final question about still learning as a manager, obviously, because it's only been 1 year, but you have been in that assistant role. You've got 3 assistant managers technically on your staff. Who do you turn to? Do you have meetings with the 3 of them to discuss plans? How does that work?
Yes, I have a lot of different people with different backgrounds, some of them with huge experience, more than 25 years in this league, with different managers that they've been through almost everything in football. And I think it's very important to complement my skills and the things that I haven't been through because it's very much needed. But I believe you, even they've been here 25 years in this Premier League, some of the things that we have experienced in the last year, they've never been through still, because it's the most weird and uncommon year in history. But they are really useful and really important for me, Nick.
So the dynamic, do you say to them, look, if you think I'm doing something wrong or you think I could do something better, please tell me?
I am very harsh on myself, believe me, and we have a really open relationship and discussions to evaluate everything that we are doing constantly. What can we change? What can we alter? The things that are working, how can we maintain them? How can we give players a lift? How can we be more stable in the club? It's a lot of things that we discuss all the time, not only with them, but the same relationship I have with Edu, the same with the board and members of the staff here, that we are constantly, this is not about a man making all decisions, it's about how we can make this function better.